I'm a strong believer in supernatural powers, meaning supernatural powers on the left-hand side in opposition of the right-hand side. In other words, satanic worship and child sacrifices. I believe stuff like that really exists. And I believe when a lot of children go missing, that's part of the reason why they go missing. Now, this situation with Trump and Jeff Epstein, I think we should pay close attention to it and focus on how real this can be, because I do know that the elite and people who have great power, they do things in regards to blood sacrifice and sacrificing children and basically humbling themselves to the devil and serving the devil, and power comes from the devil. I personally believe that that's something to be taken very seriously and considered. But let's just go through a little bit of this real quick. I'm not going to be very long. This is a short videos. These are my shorts, and just check it out.
To talk about this, Fox News has been essentially mandated not to talk about this. Why do you think that is?
That was Fox's right-leaning rival, Newsmax. Even Newsmax has noticed how quiet Fox News has gotten about the Jeffrey Epstein story. And a week ago, Trump publicly called for his supporters to stop focusing on the Jeffrey Epstein story, claiming that nobody cared about it. And Murdoch-owned Fox News quickly fell in line. Despite the story dominating news coverage across the country, this Tuesday, Fox aired a grand total of 0 segments about it. Now, to really demonstrate how much of an about-face that was, take a look at how Fox News host Laura Ingraham covered the story just last week.
For some of the administration's top allies, this raised more questions than it answered. Online and on-air podcasters, radio show hosts, others cried foul, alleging a cover-up of the most heinous crimes against children. Here's what Kash Patel said about that Epstein client list shortly after he was nominated as FBI director. Watch.
Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list. What the hell are the House Republicans doing? They have the majority. You can't get the list? Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are.
Tom.
Who's on that list? That's the thing. I believe it's a lot deeper than what we know as well. I don't think they're just touching little children or just having sex with little children. I think it's deeper than that. The same way in the Masonic Lodge, the people at the bottom of the lodge don't know what's going on, but the people at the top, whether it's the Scottish Rite or the York Rite, they know what's happening at the top. And I do believe in order to receive power and to be a part of this nasty club, you have to serve the devil. I personally believe that. I don't think it's just by chance that this is all happening. I think because we're so close to the coming of who they call Christ, that the Most High has it that things are being revealed. And they can't get around this, and they can't stop it. But at the same time, they need the power. They need Satan's power to maintain their power. And just like how we worship and serve the Most High in Christ, and power is given to us, and insight and spiritual understanding, they get the same power, but from a darker perspective. They get the power to maintain their power using evil. And in their cases, I believe that the blood of children and adults are required. This is what I believe. Children are innocent. Children haven't been fully poisoned with the cares and worries and lies and trickery of this world. So why not go after children? I believe that they think they get power in blood sacrifices and things of that nature. But, to each his own, maybe I'm wrong. I personally don't believe I'm wrong. But it's very possible. And people think that this stuff just exists in the movies. No, witchcraft and child sacrifice and, the worship of pagan gods are very real. And I think people should pay close attention to things like this. Check this out. This is It says multiple sources discuss the belief among some people that there is a secret Satan worshiping cabal of elite individuals in America engaging in various ritualistic and abusive behavior. It's kind of hard to see this, so forgive me. Let me see if I can make this better for me. It says these beliefs are often associated with conspiracy theories like QAnon, which allege that powerful politicians, see this? Powerful politicians, celebrities, and others are involved in sex trafficking. See, now, I'm not saying it's happening. I'm not saying it's not happening. I'm saying that it should be very, 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 very much considered that this is a reality. And I know some people they don't want to go that route. They don't want to see it from a perspective of reality. And the Apocrypha, which is part of the Bible, says, be not ignorant in anything small or great. So we should not be ignorant in anything small or great. We should be educated in all areas of spirituality and what's happening in the world. We should know the negatives of this world. We should know the positives. You understand? It would be very foolish and unwise not to take this seriously, or consider that it's a strong possibility. It says ritual abuse and cannibalism. Some conspiracy theories further assert that these supposed rituals involved ingesting I believe it's pronounced adrenochrome, a chemical compound they believe is derived from children. See that? You see that? I know in slavery, the slave masters would put their feet on the bare backs of black children to release their ailments, mainly arthritis, into the black slave children. I don't think it really worked. But I'm just saying, these are things that have to be considered. Definitely has to be considered. Now here's how they clear it up to kind of throw you off. So however, it is important to note that these claims are unsubstantiated and lack evidence. Law enforcement investigations and studies from organizations like Department of Justice, which is controlled by the same witches and devils and warlocks, but it says organizations like the Department of Justice and the National Center of Child Abuse and Neglect have not found evidence to support widespread ritual abuse or the existence of global satanic cult engaging in such activities. Now, who believes that? Who's going to be stupid enough to believe that? The notion of a Satan worshiping elite engaging in ritualistic abuse is a recurring theme in conspiracy theories and resembles the satanic panic of the 1980s and 1990s, according to Houston Public Media. This earlier panic was also fueled by allegations of satanic ritual abuse, particularly involving children in daycare settings. Many of the individuals convicted during that period were later exonerated after it was discovered that children's testimonies had been coerced or were based on false narratives, according to East Tennessee State University. I mean, listen, I don't want to get a flag. I'm not trying to mislead anyone. I'm just saying that it would be smarter and spiritual to consider just how real this may be. That's all I'm saying. If people were sacrificing for power in the ancient times, and if people were sacrificing children and doing blood sacrifices with individuals in the medieval time, and I believe even the pilgrims and the settlers that came to this country were doing the same thing. I also believe that the Incas and the Mayans, they were doing this stuff. I just read some information on in Colombia where this was practiced. Child sacrifice was practiced down there. I'm just saying that there's a power you get when you offer blood to the devil. That's what I'm saying, and it should not be taken lightly. And in these times, in these times, you'd be a fool to take that lightly, because people are looking for power, people are looking to make money, people are looking for help, and hey, you know, you don't put anything past people, nothing. But here's another story. Let me check this out. It says religious groups, bizarre prophecy. So you got nut jobs out there that also connect and affiliate these practices with power and prophecy. U.S. police are searching for a 13-year-old boy and a 15-year-old girl suspected of being kidnapped as human sacrifices for an apocalyptic Mormon prophecy. The Jefferson County, Ohio Sheriff Office declared an Amber Alert abduction notice after Alan Lerard Fisher and Rachel Larae Fisher vanished from their mother's home. Sometimes the parents might be in on it. Sometimes. It says the teen's mother, Elizabeth Rundy, says she fears the abduction is related to a prophecy proclaimed by the convicted child predator, founder of the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So you got some weirdos, man. You got some weirdos out here. I remember years ago, this sister, she had 2 sons, and she sent them to my mother's house, and she called and said, just let the kids walk down the block. It wasn't a far walk, about 1 block, but they were very young at that time. And I said, you're not going to go and get your child? She said, no, they can make it. I said, you're crazy. You should go and meet your children, because around this time of year, around October, kids are missing, man, and they're used for sacrifices. So, you know, me being in the faith that I'm in, you know, I believe she might have saw me over the top and said, man, come on. It's just another Israelite crazy story. But I believe she looked at that thing like, you know, I'm not taking this guy seriously, but she sat there for 2 minutes and got up and went to get her children. She got up quick to get her children. You know, you be a fool if you want, and that's a perfect example. People will brush this away like it's not real, but these things are real. And you be a fool if you want. Just because you don't believe in the devil and serving the devil, that doesn't mean someone else, you know, thinks like you. People believe in the power of the devil, the same way people believe in burning candles to certain gods. Certain people indulge in Santeria. Then Haitians, they into their thing as far as following the devil and indulging in voodoo, a mixture of Catholicism and African wicked traditions. People believe in this stuff, man, and I believe there's power behind it. But the greater power is the Most High. That's what she's saying.
There is a parliamentary hearing by the Victorian government into cults and fringe groups. This inquiry states they are not judging people's religious belief, rather examining groups who potentially harm people in physical, emotional and financial ways. Well, joining us live is Maria Esquerra, psychologist and cult survivor. Maria, thank you and good afternoon. Thanks so much for joining us. Can you talk us through a little bit more on the inquiry?
Thanks for having me, Janie. So this is something that's been in the works for quite some time. So myself, with a lot of other people, mostly who grew up in cults, actually, and I think most people don't really think about the children, and had a lot of, you know, harmful impacts from those, and seen a lot of sad things with our loved ones and our friends and family. And so we got together and we made a bunch of submissions to Chris Cousins in Victoria and the Legislative Assembly, and that's what's triggered this. So it's very welcome and well overdue. So.
And you are a cult survivor yourself, and you've shared your experiences before, and you're willing to share them here on Sky News. So just tell us a bit about what has happened.
So for myself, I was born and raised into the Children of God, which was renamed the Family later on. And that was, a very high control group, cultic group. It was run by pedophile from the US. So it started in California in like 1968.
There's something with these pedophiles, man. I don't think everybody's just a sick pedophile. I think, like I said earlier, that they get off not only being with children, but I think they believe they get a sense of power by messing with children. And I think some are ordained and set up by maybe a high priest in that world to find children and do the unthinkable with children, if you know what I mean. I don't think this is just, a by chance thing with somebody just being sick. I'm not saying that doesn't exist. You got people who are sick, but I think overall we have to consider the dark side of it spiritually, and consider that people seek power. They seek power through the suffering, pain, and even the death of children. We have to consider that. Again, if they did things like this in the ancient times, and the same way we celebrate Christmas and Easter, which are pagan days from the ancient times, and they just change the names and pretty it up a bit, why wouldn't the same thing apply to child sacrifice? The same way you had secret societies and organizations that were underground and they received power through blood sacrifice, why wouldn't that be in 2024 today? Why wouldn't that be in 2025 or in the future today? I just think people are so docile and in certain cases emotional. They don't think that that's possible. Their emotions just get the best of them, or they just think that these things just happen in the movies. It's just crazy in my opinion. It's just really crazy.
1969 and came over to Australia, and even though I'm a proud Australian with generations of amazing people who contributed to this country, I grew up basically not like an Australian, without any education, without medical care, without being able to see my grandparents or anyone that was not in the group. And, basically just making money for the cult. And then there was, physical and all sorts of abuse
meaning sex. She's got to be talking about sexual abuse or physical. When she says physical, it's got to be talking about that. Even with Jeff Epstein, if you listen to her, she said she was doing things for the cult. And even Jeff Epstein, the woman who's currently arrested, I don't know her name. I can't remember her name, but she was recruiting a lot of the young girls for Sex Island. Who knows what this woman was doing? I'm not saying she did anything. She was recruiting children. I'm not saying that, but you got to put that on the table, because people, they get so brainwashed. And notice how it's Church of Christ and Christ Church or such and such. This is why it's important to believe in the Bible as it is written. You have to be very careful, because people will twist the words around and make you a slave and a zombie and make you a cult member. So you have to be very careful, man.
Was rife in this group as well. So I call it more of a pseudo-Christian group, because I think most people that would look up the doctrines would not think, I'd say 100% of Christians would not call them Christian beliefs.
See, there you go right there. You got to look things up. A lot of brothers today who are in the faith, Israelites, are distancing, moving a certain distance spiritually away from certain brothers and sisters. My thing is, when you leave or if you move away from the brothers and sisters, keep the faith. Don't jump from one belief to another belief and then I see you later and you're just out there as an American. That would be insane, Just keep it simple. My spiritual walk is just keep things simple, man. Just keep it simple.
Thank you so much for sharing us that story, and there's just no words to describe how how you have dealt with that and how you got through it. And you're a psychologist as well, so you are certainly helping people with their situations. And we're seeing more of these organisations, Maria.
So I do believe when there's times of uncertainty, people do become a lot more vulnerable to, leaders that come in, and cults almost always have a charismatic leader. They're super confident usually, and I'd say they always have some sort of dark personality traits.
There you go. Look at this thing, Dr. York and Brother Polite. Big time cult, man. Big time cult. Sleep with other brothers' wives, and people get caught up into that, man. They get caught up into that. Then I saw these two sisters who used to, who's the guy that used to follow? Nature Boy. He was following this Nature Boy. And these two sisters was totally brainwashed. You couldn't tell them nothing. Very dangerous. Very dangerous. And even if you come out of that, now you don't even want to deal with God and the Most High. You don't even want to deal with that. So just watch your steps, man, because this thing is real, and life is real, and you don't want to be in a position where you just lose life. You want to be smart. You want to be aware. So my thing is this thing with Donald Trump. Follow this thing very carefully, closely. Don't just take that as nothing is happening, man. Follow that very closely, because there's no way you're going to be at the top and not do any dirt. I mentioned that a few videos back. There's no way you're going to be at the top and not touch any dirt. You're going to, or not get dirty. You have to bend over, sometimes in gay rituals, sometimes in murder, sometimes in being a flunky and bringing victims in for these witches. You got to think, and you got to follow the spirit of the Most High and who they call Christ.
Mentioned the Epstein story on her show last night. The Wall Street Journal's story about Trump's alleged letter to Epstein, the story that is the subject of this new lawsuit, was published minutes before Ingram's show started last night. And before taking a commercial break, Ingram teased that she was going to cover the Journal's story.
We have new news coming on about this as well from the Wall Street Journal, a new report tonight. Next.
News coming about this from the Wall Street Journal. A new report tonight. Next. But curiously, for the rest of her hour, Ingram never mentioned the Wall Street Journal story. When Mediaite inquired about what happened, Fox News did not respond.
Because it's not real news in most cases. Well, certain cases. I'm not going to say most cases. But they all controlled. They will only go but so far. Why don't they cover the Epstein case and go into deep detail like the P. Diddy case? They will never do that. Then I saw one broadcast where they were saying they can't do it because there's so many important people involved in child molestation that if they did that, the country would freeze. Like it's too big to fail. Like when the banks were in trouble, they couldn't shut down the banks. They had to feed them taxpayers' money because the banks are too big to fail. Now the petties are too big to go to jail. Not only fail, but go to jail. So, I mean, you do the math. You can't make this up, man. You cannot make this crap up. So it's all crap, the country. It's all evil. It's all wicked. And this is why we need our Lord to come back and roast this damn place. Totally roast it. I'm out.